Appreciate you checking out this video. Before I continue, I want you to go to theultimatejetguide.com, where I've put together a full guide for jet buyers like yourself. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is the inefficiency of aviation, and that being, where does data come from? Unless you have
Right.
intimate knowledge of the deals, and even if you're involved in a deal, there's usually a non-disclosure to some extent. So where
Right.
does that data come from, and how do you know that your data is accurate so that you can appropriately assign a value to the market
I
in
mean,
general?
that's a great question. So initially, all the data comes direct from the manufacturer. So when the
Oh, okay.
aircraft is delivered new, right, the manufacturer gives us a data set. And actually, just this past week, I probably got updates from a half dozen manufacturers because this is the
Gotcha.
time of year when we do that. So we're loading in all the 2023 aircraft right now. So
Hmm.
that's the first step in me verifying that it's real, is that it came from them. And
Right.
then from that point going forward, right, we track it. And so usually what happens is and it happens more often in the business jet world than anywhere else. And I also find this fascinating, but we'll get the same serial number reported by the seller, by the buyer, by the finance company. Sometimes we're even the appraiser of record. So like we have the same airplane being reported by different people. Sometimes the numbers are the same and sometimes they're not. And when they're not, that's when you got to be smart enough to go, well, something's going on here, so we can't rely on it. So it goes,
Mm, interesting.
right? So
So we
outline data, that's what we do. We get rid of it because you can't average things out based on a one-off. That would be
but
unfair to the rest of the community.
when are the buyers and sellers and financing company reporting that? Like
So
I understand
they
like with
report it
escrow they can
daily.
do it,
Well,
but
no, I mean, they
like
literally send us an email.
oh, so like if okay, and
Yes.
now are these like what's like the age range of these jets that you're talking about? Because I'm looking at from the pre-owned world from the 70s through the early 2000s. Like I don't
Right.
know that buyers are like calling up VREF and be like, hey, by the way, I bought a jet for X amount of
They
dollars.
do. Believe
Oh,
believe it or
cool.
not, they
That's
do.
cool. Okay.
Yeah, so we get I don't know. When we prompt for it, and we prompt for it every month, we ask our community to share those transactions with us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get about a 30 to 40% response rate. I mean,
Hmm.
and we also get every transaction direct from the FAA, right? So we get the FAA CDs, which is now being digitized, right? So we get the digital transaction reports every day. And
Mm-hmm.
so that also helps because we know what's closing.
On those FAA reports, though, is it like real estate where the actual sales price is given
No,
to the FAA and stuff, or that you
no,
have to?
there's
Okay.
no sales number. Confidentiality is a big part of this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't resell the transactions, even though I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want to buy them from us. We don't sell the comps. And so that is really a big deal for us. Like a lot of other companies that are trying to collect data, they resell it. We don't do that. And so
Mm-hmm.
when the banks send us, for example, their closing numbers, it's a spreadsheet. Some banks will include the serial number, some banks won't. Some banks will include, all the data on the cockpit and upgrades, some won't.
Yeah,
And
true.
so, right, so those transaction closing records help us figure out and identify those airplanes. We know what day
Mm-hmm.
it closed on, right? We know what model it was. I mean, how many are there?
Yeah.
That's how we start connecting the
So
dots.
you're
I
yeah, you're connecting dots, putting puzzle pieces together.
But
Wow.
I'm doing it the smart way. I'm not doing it with people. I'm doing it with computers. So the
Sure.
first thing I did when I took over is I had a bunch of scripts written. So we literally we get every single FA transaction. We compile that against, what's being reported internally. Um, and then the other part, which is still manually, is that I do have 50 girls that sit in a room and they literally collect every transaction, not from a closing, but from a potential closing, and that is the listing services. So we go to Trade a Plane and Controller and Barnstormers. Those are and Avbuyer. Those are the four that we track every day. And we maintain our own internal spreadsheets so we know what aircraft are coming on and coming off the market.
Mm.
And we've been doing that for years and years and years. And again, that is not data that, well, some of it's made available to our subscribers. So we've been including more market data. So we are starting to show, we're just not identifying them yet. We're not giving you
Right.
the ability to pull up the serial number and the tail number yet.
Right.